Hey everybody, it's been quite a while, and welcome to Zenny 62. Thank you for joining me on, I guess, what should be called Black Sunday, going into Black Monday, because we've already had a number of NFL head coach firings. First of all, of course, 3 weeks ago we had Mike McCarthy, who was axed by the Packers. It was announced that Dirk Carter was going to be fired as the coach of the Bucks, regardless of the outcome of this game, and that's exactly what happened. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers announced that once again they're flying without a parachute. I'll explain what I mean by that in a second. After letting go of Dirk Carter after 3 seasons and a 19-win, 29-loss record, which saw him nearly make the playoffs only once his first year as coach with Jameis Winston. And, I got to be honest, I was uncomfortable with the way Carter got the job because I felt he got it behind the back of Lovie Smith. He was Lovie Smith's offensive coordinator and somehow managed to wiggle his way into taking Lovie Smith's place as opposed to remaining as offensive coordinator and allowing the Bucs to really shore up their defense. Because if you think about it, what happened was that Carter brought in Mike Smith, who was fired as the coach of the Atlanta Falcons, if you recall, 3 years ago, and brought him in as a defensive coordinator for his Buccaneers staff. And the defense performed well only that 1 year when they went 9-7. And really, it was more the offense than the defense. Even then, the defense had problems, and they just got worse as Mike Smith remained as defensive coordinator. He has a basic scheme I call it a wide tackle 6. They have the defensive tackles outside the offensive guards on the outside shoulder, and he doesn't have the personnel to make that scheme work. And more often than not, the Buccaneers were not playing offenses which really called for that kind of scheme. The only time it was logical to use it was if you were playing a team which happened to run a lot of jet sweeps. And at that time, they weren't facing them later, yeah. But even then, by the time that they were facing teams that are using a jet sweep, a la the Falcons at times, they really weren't employing the wide tackle 6 like they used to. So they were all screwed up. And they didn't even realize that, hey, that's the answer. That's the schematic answer to what we're doing, right? Whatever. The Buccaneers fly without a parachute because too often, and my friend, the 49ers, Jed York, the owner, is famous for this. You cut people, you fire this person, you fire that person, but you don't have a game plan to say this is the blueprint that's going to get us to the promised land again and again and again. And therefore, we're going to use this blueprint to hire that head coach and that general manager. Where's the blueprint? It's always angels and devils on shoulders, So once again, we go to this period of angels and devils standing on the shoulders of people who have a lot of money, but make decisions that either make you millions or cost you millions on the way to billion. That's the way it is. So Dirk Carter's fired. Todd Bowles, I saw this coming preseason. I said that Todd Bowles was set up to be fired. The only way that you could guarantee Todd Bowles' job as coach of the Jets was to plug in Teddy Bridgewater as his starter. Sam Darnold was not ready for the role of veteran quarterback to lead the Jets to the playoffs. Teddy Bridgewater would have done that. Teddy Bridgewater was worlds better. But I'm going to say this, and you might want to drop out of sight because you're not going to like what I have to say, but I don't care. There is this internecine racial war that's played out in the National Football League that really should stop. And you have people who don't want a black quarterback to be seen, and yet you cannot stop the onslaught of very talented black quarterbacks that are in the league and are coming up from college and into the NFL. I give you Lamar Jackson as one example. Now, if you want to cut out on me at this point, fine. But you should listen or agree Okay? Because if you truly believe in a meritocracy, as I do, then the bottom line is two things. First of all, you get the best person for the kind of job you want done, but you recognize that if you cast a wide net and try anybody, even if they don't look the part, you more often than not will find the right person. Okay, so uh, that's not what's happening in all corners of society, let alone the National Football League. But my point is that with respect to football, we um, we have a situation here. I like that we have a situation. Hey, Joseph Amanduras, Happy New Year! Happy New Year! Happy New Year! That's right. My goodness, 24 hours from now, it will be the clock almost striking ding dong, right? And we're going to head into 2019. Yeah. So, oh, by the way, I said AP Steadham will join us. AP will join us at the top of the hour. He covered the Alabama Crimson Tide game. Joseph Amanduras asks, hold on a second. Hello. Hey. Oh, he's. Oh. Oh, just start a new Gmail account. Just go to Gmail, start a brand new email account, use that password. That's the easy. That's the way to do it. And I will. I'll do that for you. I'm actually doing my live stream show right now, but I will do that later. All right. All right. I'll talk to you soon. Okay. See ya. You always take a call from family, regardless of what of the time or situation. That's the way that I roll. Uh, my stepfather is trying to set up his Google Home app, and I told him to call me if he needed some, advice, and or if he got stuck at a certain point where he's downloading the Google Home app on his iPhone, right? And he got to that point, and he called me, so I wasn't gonna leave him hanging. It's the way I roll, folks. Now, Joseph Armendura says, have you heard anything about Chris Warren and what his status is since he's been placed on injured reserve? I have not had heard anything about his status. However, I am now checking right now to see if there's any news that came up that I may have missed. And aside from the obvious, which is he's on IR and his season's over. And so that is still where he's at. I don't expect him with his injury. I don't expect him to come back anytime sooner than perhaps June. Okay. So, but he's definitely a talent and worth keeping an eye on. That's one part of it. The sad part about it is that it's a matter of the window. Okay. And what I mean by that is this. With the fact that running backs are quite literally seem to be treated as if they are a dime a dozen in the NFL, if you get that shot and you get injured, it's difficult to come back and overcome the next wave of talent in the NFL. That said, Chris Warren is a special back. The question is going to be to what extent Chris Warren can come back from IR, and to the extent to which the Raiders basically put him on ice and help him come back. Okay, if they believe in his talent, as I do, they should simply shield. They should, well, yeah, I was going to say shield him from the rest of the league, right? But the whole point is they should basically do everything they can. The Raiders to help him rehabilitate to be that back that he showed that he was in preseason. I think he has it within him to be. And I want to say this. You might laugh, but I'll say this. Chris Warren has it within him to be a 2,000-yard back if he stays healthy. You hear me? A 2,000-yard back, but you have to be willing to give him the ball 25 to 30 carries a game, and you have to be willing to run off tackles and wide plays with him. Out in the open, he is a ball wrecker, okay, without question. So Get him in that type of scheme, feed him the ball, and I really believe that he can be that kind of person. Hey, Jamal Mills, how you doing? Hey, Jamal, you're a moderator. I'm going to ask for your help in getting rid of the idiots that might appear tonight. Okay, so there you go. Now, continuing. Joseph, great question. Joseph follow-up says, what's the word on Raiders 2019 home? San Diego even an option? No, because in the best option for the Raiders is Oakland. And for one prominent reason, that the Raiders are in the middle of getting a cold shower of reality to deal with. For 23 years, the Raiders have had their game day expenses, each game covered by the Coliseum Joint Powers Authority to the tune of, in present value, $9 million for the season. You hear me? Okay? Folks, that's unheard of in pro sports. All right? Are you listening? I'm going to repeat that. The Oakland Alameda County Coliseum Joint Powers Authority has financed the game day expenses of the Oakland Raiders for 23 years. That is a provision unheard of in sports. Are you listening? What does that mean? They say, okay, Zinni, what does that mean? It means this. That is $9 million the Raiders don't have to come up with per year. That's $9 million that helps the Raiders survive as a business going concern in sports. Do you realize the Raiders have had an average net operating income of $19 million a year? Think about that. So you shave off $9 million, you're looking at $10 million. And with the size of the bills of what you're paying players and everything else to run a sports team, that basically means you're $10 million from going into the red, from losing money annually. So the city of Oakland and the county of Alameda and the all funds category of the budget of the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum Joint Powers Authority have saved you, the Raiders, from near financial ruin on an annual basis. Okay? So my point is, all right? So you're going to tell me that the Raiders are going to get that same deal in London? San Diego? Levi Stadium? Las Vegas? No, they're not going to get that same deal. And that's the reality the Raiders are dealing with right now. Okay? Right now. If Mark Davis swallows his pride and looks at his bank account and stops making decisions that harm the financial position of the Raiders, because he's done that time and again, okay? With the idea, and I know what he's thinking. Hey, look, I'm going to get this dramatic fee and payback in Las Vegas. Well, no, you're not going to, all right? Boeing says, didn't the Raiders build a stadium in Vegas? No, because it's under construction. Boeing, get it together, okay? So my point is, all right, oh, and by the way, welcome to Zinni 62. If you don't know the math here, I'm in a weird mood. I might boot you. So know what you're talking about before you bring it. I'm in that kind of mood tonight, okay? I'm limiting this to Zinsters. The Zinsters know what I'm talking about, like Jamal Mills. These guys know this situation. Having said that, I'm not going to be an arrogant butthole. Well, more than I normally am. My point is, I want you to know this stuff. Okay? Some of you are hiding behind screen names. Some of you hold positions in this thing. So if I sense that you are who I think you are, I'm going to be even harder on you. All right? So my point is this. All right? Now, I wish I could give you, this is like this guy, he says, okay, look at this, all right? I'm going to take a screenshot of this because it's really that ridiculous, all right? This is, okay, all right, this is what he's saying. This is Boeing, all right? This is what he writes, all right? It says, can you read that? It's actually in backward. I think it's coming out backward. It's coming out backward. That's hilarious. He says, didn't the Raiders build a stadium in Vegas? Well, no. They're building one, but they haven't built it. Then he says, what did they build then? Well, they haven't finished it. Okay. So, I mean, look, I'm about this close to booting you on general principle. So if you have a point to make your point. If you don't make your point and it doesn't make any sense, I'm not going to boot you. I'm going to erase what you're asking. All right. So you need to get smart. You need to do it fast. Figure it out, Boeing. Besides, you're using the name of an airplane company. You ought to know what the heck you're talking about. All right. Dell Jr. Sorry, I skipped over you. Marcelo says, I hear the Raiders looking at London for next year. Who's going to pay? If the NFL pays, it's going to be a lot of money to pay him between travel costs and everything else. Dell Jr. says, anybody remember the name D'Amico Autry? He played, I sure do, defensive of the Raiders. He has 9 sacks this year playing for the Colts. Yeah, the Raiders have shed a lot of talent because of the negative financial position the Raiders have been placed in, I would hope temporarily, due to Las Vegas situation. That's why no deal for Khalil Mack, no deal for Amari Cooper. I don't care what Mark says. The bottom on Oakland Raiders owner Mark Davis. The simple fact of the matter is that when the hotel stadium tax revenue started going south, guess what? Hey, they started panicking. Hey, Victoria, how you doing? Welcome to Zenny62. All right. In about roughly 7 minutes, I'm going to call my good friend AP Steadham. We're going to talk about, hey, he covered the Alabama Crimson Tide's victory, dramatic victory, I might add, over Oklahoma. A little rough there on the quarterback, but he's going to be covering the national championship game. Again, not his first rodeo at this sort of thing. Looking forward to talking with him about that and getting his take on other moves in the National Football League and college football and everything else, and Nick Saban going off and on his players and just being, well, Saint Nick, as I like to call him. All right. Let's see here. We have what else? All right. We've got just a little housekeeping here. I should say house cleaning. And we have cleaned house. Okay, now moving along. Jamal Miller says, wow, the KC game versus the Raiders was a straight beating. Yeah, that was awful. I mean, where do you start? That Derek Carr threw 2 interceptions, that Patrick Mahomes threw his 50th touchdown pass against us, that the Chiefs basically had a party at our expense. Where do you start? Well, I kind of guess I figured out where we started. Having said all that, I will say this. Congratulations to Patrick Mahomes, who is the client of my good friend and super sports agent Lee Steinberg, who's done a tremendous job, Patrick Mahomes, in just his second year. Think about this. Patrick Mahomes' second year. He has become the darling of the NFL on the field and off, and has basically cemented Lee's career as the quarterback whisperer among agents, having represented such luminaries as, well, and now, but in part because of Lee, Steve Young, Troy Aikman, and many others, Warren Moon. So Lee has, once again, another feather in his cap. Ben Roethlisberger also another feather in his cap with Patrick Mahomes, and it's great to see that Lee is once again on top of the sports world and on top of an industry that he created way back in 1973 when he represented Cal quarterback Steve Bartkowski, gave him then the largest quarterback contract ever seen. So congratulations to Lee on that. Wow, too bad Patrick Mahomes couldn't be a Raider, right? But moving along to more of your comments here. Joseph Martinez says, Joseph, I'm glad you brought this up. He says, Mike Mayock is rumored for the GM job. Who is he? Who, or will he be just another yes man for Gruden? Marcelo, welcome, Marcelo, as well. Marcelo says, it's fun watching Patrick. He's going to be the beast for many years. I completely agree with you. And so let's see here. We've got, all right, Joseph Maduris, I'm going to take your questions. I know Mike Mayock. Jamal Mills says Mike's amazing. Surfer Bob, and let's see here. I am going to. All right, cool. All right. Hey, Surfer Bob, you're not welcome here. Bye. Sorry. Okay. You are persona non grata, Surfer Bob. Bye. So, at any rate, very happy to get rid of a person on my channel. Not, but just someone named Surfer Bob. Jeez. Okay. Won't even use his real name to begin with. Okay. Or his or whoever the person really is. I can care less. Ouch. All right. Now, moving along. Mike Mayock is someone I've been acquainted with for a long, long time over the course of my time covering the NFL draft. I first interviewed Mike I've covered the NFL draft since 2005. I'm the first to cover it with a YouTube channel, and in 2006, the first to cover it with live stream. I partnered with Ustream in 2007. I interviewed Mike in 2009 at Chelsea Piers, my question tonight had to do with the NFL passing game. Okay, and I asked if he felt the college passing game had basically taken over and went beyond the pro passing game. Okay, and so his answer to me was, I'll just be honest, I thought it was less than charitable. Okay, and I felt that, look, if I asked the same question of Jay Gruden, John Gruden's brother, Jay, as he had done so at the NFL annual meeting 2 years ago, admitted that the college game had really overtaken the pro game, and many of the best ideas for offense in the NFL were actually in college and high school. Okay, that was true in 2009 as well. I was very disappointed in Mike's answer. Basically, it was, well, okay, at the pro game, you have more time to work on a concept. That's far field different than the question I asked. And the reason why I say that is because, look, I can work on an I sprint out concept, right? In college, I can work out the I sprint out concept in the NFL. But just because I have more time to work on it in the NFL doesn't mean it's more advanced. It just means I have more time to work on the finer points of, offensive tackle, basically affecting a block on the defensive end to keep the defensive end from taking over the 9 hole outside, or arranging it so that the defensive end basically not only acts as a sort of a negative influence block, so you have it so the defensive end keeps blocking, but then your running back goes outside the defensive end, but the defensive end is so busy placing pressure to stop what he thinks the inside run is going to be, he winds up not being able to react to the outside run. That's called a negative influence block. All right? Something that Don Shula popularized in the NFL way back in the 70s when he was coaching the Dolphins. Now, point is that, hey, Barry Lee, how you doing? Now, point is that, and this gets to, hey, Patrick and Blackman, how you doing? And this gets to Mayock. My point was, if I am in college and I'm facing a spread offense with adjustable patterns, as was the case with some approaches, particularly Miles Davis in the run and shoot, which does have adjustable patterns in some of its iterations. And then I come into the pro game and I'm running a standard pro set that's more the Gilman throw deep 1960s, 1970s offense. That's a different approach, and it's an older approach, and it's less flexible than the Miles Davis approach, okay? Those are different concepts. And so I expected him to get that, Mike Mayock, and I was really disappointed that he didn't get it, and then seemed, to me, derisive of the fact that I asked the question. And obvious by the, by the fact that I remember it, it wasn't exactly the most pleasant experience for me because I expected something more from him then. All right. Um, Mike has went to an evolution to me. He's evolved from a person who I felt that evaluated talent, particularly at the quarterback level, on the basis in part of race, to one who evaluates talent fairly. I have never envisioned Mike as a general manager. My feeling is if you're going to talk to Mike about being a GM, then you should talk to his counterpart or his colleague with the NFL Network, the draft, Charles Davis, who, for me, knows every bit as much about the pro game as Mike Mayock does. Mike Mayock in 2011 also turned around, and Deion Sanders will tell you this. It was all over the place. He said Cam Newton doesn't have heart. Okay, this is before Cam Newton came out of college, and how can you say that a guy who won the national championship with Auburn, Cam Newton, doesn't have heart? Okay, maybe you didn't like that he did something allegedly off the field, which he was exonerated for the most part. Okay, and fine, I get that. Maybe you didn't like the relationship between his father allegedly had with Auburn. I get that. But the man's talent, Cam Newton's talent as a kid, we keep saying man, but remember something. Cam Newton was 18, 19, 20 years old, all right? Evaluate his offensive talent. I said then and I say now that Cam Newton is a football genius. Why? Because he played in 3 different offenses between high school in college and excelled at all 3 on the way to a national championship. That's unheard. That's not typical, folks. And yet Cam Newton did it, but because of the society that we live in, his talent, his mental talent, was not acknowledged. And so if you don't treat someone as if they're smart, guess what? You don't get the best out of them. Okay? You don't get the best out of them. So, if you're wondering what that background noise is, it's rain. But my point is, Mike Mayock really unfairly evaluated Cam Newton. Now the other thing that Mike Mayock did that really made me somewhat uncomfortable was he used to be on with Lindsay Rhodes on the NFL Network, okay? And they were covering the draft. And he was kind of teasingly, playfully belittling her as this girl that didn't know football, but he did it on the air. And I felt that was wrong of him to do that. And I made a video and said so. Some people got really upset with me. But I remember I didn't get a chance to talk with her, but I saw Lindsay Rhodes. She recognized me actually at Mike Silver's party at Henry's. We used to call Henry's at the Durant Hotel in Berkeley, right? This was during when Mike had a Super Bowl party, when the Super Bowl was in the Bay Area at Santa Clara. And I was a guest of Mike's. Mike Silver's, among other people. And she looked over and gave me a nod as if to say thank you. That was all I needed to know. All right. So I hope and I pray to God that Mike has, and I think he has, evolved and become a person that could be an incredible, manager of an organization. It seems like that's what he's wanted to do for some time. Otherwise, why be interviewed for it, right? But I had to share that because I felt it'd be dishonest if I didn't. I mean, Charles Davis is a Mitch. He is a fantastic person to be acquainted with, to talk with, to interview, to know. Charles Davis is the kind of person that I believe anybody would basically run through a wall for if he were the general manager of the Oakland Raiders or an executive on any football organization. I really believe that he has that kind-hearted fairness about him. Charles Davis does. And he's whipper smart, exceptionally talented, and he's a great football announcer, as many of you know. So I really believe he should, if you're going to look at Mike Mayock, at least give Charles Davis a look. what bothers me is that somebody black, when you mention African Americans, like, well, they did the Rooney Rule hires. That's insane, folks. Forget all that. If you know somebody can do the job and they're bright and they're Charles Davis and they're black, talk to them. All right. I mean, it's ridiculous. Jay Boogie thinks that Riddick is better than Mayock. You know, there you go. Okay. So, and John Amir realizes the race is not a card to play. I'm going to tell you something, and I don't ever want anybody to forget this. Okay. Look, this is something, I'll tell you, this really hit home with me personally way back in 1988. And I was invited to go to 1987. And I was invited to go to, and I got to make this phone call in a second. I'll say this and I got to call my friend, but I was invited to a dinner on 35th and MacArthur in Oakland when I was in grad school. And it turned out to be this Colombian dinner, doing this Colombian dance. And I was like this, you know, straight-laced square dude, couldn't dance, fish out of water. I loved it. I was learning a new culture. So you have to remember something. Everybody has a different background. Become interested in their backgrounds. But also, once you've figured out their background and everything else, and you're interested in where their background is, then you find the talent that you need. I say that to say this. There are many different types of bright and talented people of different colors today. So you can construct, there is no excuse for not being able to construct a diverse staff or football players that, you know, have different makeups. So what? If you think that race is a card to play, you'd miss it. All right? You want a diverse staff in a diverse society. You want a diverse group of people in a diverse society. It says a lot positive about you and your ability to find talent regardless of where it is. Think about it this way. Let's say you've got 5 different places to go, but 2 of them are places you're not familiar with, right? So you're only going to go to these 3, but the answer happens to be over here. That means you missed the answer here. No, that's not even smart from a free market perspective. Free market perspective, you look everywhere where the best opportunity to invest is, right? Well, if that's the case, then you look wherever it is. Race is a part of it. So what? You talk to a person who happens to be a person of color. That person you evaluate it. You know what you're doing. You say, hey, look, all right, I want that person. All right, now I'm shifting gears. I'm calling my friend right now, AP Steadham, because he is now ready. And so I'm going to text him and says, and I'm going to write, I'm saying calling, because I'm calling him. And Cowboy Wrestler says he could care less who the Raiders hire. and the Raiders are a sorry blank franchise. And you know, and look, I will also say this, you know, again, we're getting to a point in society I always thought we would be at, where someone young and white would say, and they'll be right to say this, what about me? And my point is this: keep learning, doing, meeting the right friends, and cultivating great relationships of all kinds, and you will find that place. Don't ever feel that you're left out because of who you are. And if you're around people who are diminishing you because of who you are, get new friends. Reach out to folks like me, everybody else who will see the bright light in you and encourage that bright light. Because the message should be that everybody has a special light to shine. That's really what this is about. Everybody has a special light to shine, folks. Nobody is dark in this society. Everybody has a special light to shine. Now, let me call AP Steadham, all right? As Jamal Mills just wrote, it's time for parents to teach young people early on that in diversity there is beauty and there is strength. Couldn't have said it better. All right. And Patrick and Blackman, you're absolutely right about Charles Davis. I'm going to see if I can get him on the show. Calling AP Steadham right now. AP covers the Alabama Crimson Tide and has for a long time. He's been on the show before. He's a friend of mine, friend of the show. AP.
Hello, Zenny. How are you?
Great. How you feeling, my man?
I'm doing fine.
We're on
Doing
live
well.
with my longtime friend AP Steadham. AP had to get a little shut eye there, much deserved, because this dude works hard. I'm telling you, he works hard. What time did you go to bed after that tremendously glorious Crimson Tide win, AP?
I did not go to bed.
What?
No, we drove up to Orlando, took a direct flight 8 o'clock this morning to San Diego.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. We're blessed to have you, my friend. I mean,
oh, yeah, my pleasure. Yeah, I'm in San Marcos, California, my cousin's house.
San Marcos. How's the weather down there?
Good, yeah. It was good weather, sunny, up in the 50s or so.
Wow.
It's nice, very nice.
Hey, I know we got you for a little time, and I can hear in your voice you're a little like, sore. So tell me,
Just a little bit.
first of all, what were the keys to victory to the Crimson Tide's win, and did you expect it to be such the butt kicking that it was?
Well, my projection was a 42-28 victory, and I said ball security was number one because if you relinquish the football to Oklahoma, there's a potential that they're going to score. And once they get on top of you, it's going to be like a track race, and you're going to be looking at the back of their jersey, which it would not be good because they can score at any place on the field. They can run the football. They had a 1,000-yard rusher, 900-yard rusher, and the quarterback rushed for 892 yards in the season. They threw for over 4,000 yards, about 40 touchdowns. So they're a prolific scoring team, averaging close to 50 points a game. But see, their defense was not able to hold people down. See, Alabama was scoring close to 50 points a game as well, but they had a better defense. So Alabama just had ball security. I thought they would score a lot of points. As I said, 42. They ended up being 45 to 34. And I was looking at the booklet from last night. Alabama scored on every possession except they punted twice, and they scored 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, 6 touchdowns and a field goal. So there was only punted twice.
Wow. So I got to ask you this question. Was a lot of the motivation for this tremendous tail beating, no other way to put it, the Heisman Trophy outcome?
I think that was secondary because you're trying to win a championship, but number one was the Heisman Trophy slight. They felt the Alabama team thought Tua Tagovailoa should win the Heisman Trophy, and then also just a minor one was the Oklahoma offensive line won the Joe Moore Award, given to the what's thought to be the best offensive line. So those were two areas where they received awards, and Alabama probably thought they should have been the recipient.
How would you looking forward to the Crimson Tide's game? How would you evaluate it? How would you call it?
Yeah, it's going to be very tough because Clemson has a terrific defensive line. One of their players was suspended before the playoffs, so he won't be on the roster. But they have 3 other players, and I have to check the reserve that'll be in the lineup. More than likely, he's probably going to be in the NFL down the road as well. But this year, they have a pure passing quarterback, freshman Trevor Lawrence. So he had an excellent game last night himself against Notre Dame. They buried Notre Dame 30-3, and one of the stars of the game was a wide receiver freshman from Alabama. So they're going to be tough to guard because they're built just like Alabama, big, powerful, fast, and they have. I think they have a pretty good field goal. I think the field goal here is decent too.
Hey, I want to know your opinion on this. Do you think that Oklahoma and Notre Dame had any business being ranked as high as they were over, say, Georgia?
Well, the way I feel is that
Bless you.
That the fact that I say Georgia had 2 chances this season. They went to LSU, lost by 20 points. And then they played Alabama in the SEC championship game. So that was 2 chances they had to shine against good teams. They lost both. And in this system where you only have 4 teams, I'm willing to give somebody else a chance. So Notre Dame went through the season undefeated, and Oklahoma had the 1 loss to Texas, which they avenged in the Big 12 championship. So, you could have, Ohio State, they had lost a 29-point loss to Purdue.
Oh my gosh.
Purdue. So do you think that a team like Alabama would, let's say they lost by 29 points to Ole Miss on the road, do you think that they would be considered for the college football playoff?
Nah, no.
Right?
Yeah, I mean,
so they wouldn't be considered. So why would I consider Ohio State being slighted with a 29-point loss on the road to a Purdue team that got beat 63-14 in the bowl game by Auburn?
Yeah. No, you actually make a great deal of sense on that. It's just, it seems like when you look at Michigan, when you look at Notre Dame, in particular, those two, among others, that from a speed perspective, they were completely outclassed.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan lost to Ohio State in that last regular season game. They gave up 62 or 63 points, and
it was comical.
It was a slaughter.
It was,
it was like one of the worst of all time. But Zenny, the truth of the matter is that people want to have an 8-team playoff. There's not 8 teams that are worthy of being in the playoff.
But let's say that now this gets to the UCF controversy, right?
Yes.
I do favor. How about 6 teams? Okay, but hear me out. Hear me out. And I know I hear what you're saying, but I know you're a traditionalist at heart, and I am 3/4 of the way in that camp with you. It's the other 1/4 of me that's talking.
Yes.
I would love to just see that bull in a china shop, seemingly, be allowed in UCF and see how they do.
Well, really, it was set up for this season, Zenny. But what happened was their quarterback, who's from Hawaii, just like the Alabama quarterback, he was injured, but they still went undefeated. But they didn't have the strength of schedule. But I wouldn't have minded to see Central Florida play Alabama with the healthy quarterback.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, right.
And it would have given them a chance, and they're going to get another chance this year to play an SEC team. They're playing LSU, which is one of the better teams in the conference. So they're playing in the Fiesta Bowl, big bowl game, right?
Yep.
Representing the American Athletic Conference. So if they win again, if next year they're undefeated, and they're healthy, they might be one of the teams that's selected.
Hey, we're on with AP Steadham, who's covered Alabama Crimson Tide football for a decade?
Yeah,
a decade plus.
Right.
Which means you know Amari Cooper, and I'd like to know, because we didn't have a chance to talk about this when the trade came through, but I want to know what you think about not just the trade of Amari Cooper, but his comment that, to paraphrase, he basically landed in paradise in Dallas. What does that say about the Raiders in your view?
Well, I guess in Amari's low-key personality, let's establish that right off the bat. And for him to make those type of comments, there must have been some disarray in his mind. But he's still a great football player. I mean, he could be a big contributor, which he was with Dallas when he came on board. I mean, he has outstanding ability, and he can score a touchdown from anywhere on the field. Run by somebody, and he's got good hands. He needs a quarterback to get him the football consistently.
Yeah, I was actually so shocked that he made the comment so flippantly on national television, and it, of course, wonderfully spread out millions of times via social media, and it really signaled, hey, look, the Raiders have a problem. And I say that because one of the questions, Dell Jr. says, how would you evaluate the current Raiders offensive coaching staff?
Yes.
And I would say that if you have a talent, and I'd love to get your response on this. How much time do I have with you? Because I know your voice is going out.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, just we could go a little bit longer. If you need
okay.
I'm trying to sip water as we speak.
Oh, right on. Cool. My take is, if you have a talent like Amari Cooper, you can't figure out how to give him the ball, then you're not a very good offensive coach. And it doesn't matter who you get or how high your draft picks are.
Yes.
You're going to screw them up. I mean, I think
Amari's excellent talent. Yeah, Amari's an excellent talent. Pro Bowl type of talent.
Yeah, I mean, so Dell Jr., there's your answer. I mean, I in fact, as I talk to you, I'm looking at the NFL NFL offense 2007 offensive rankings 2017. And I'm wondering, I'm going to compare where the Raiders finished in 2017 with where they are right now. And according to we have here in terms of those are standings, but in terms of rankings, they have playoff results here, everything else, player stats, playoff. What I'm looking for are offensive stats here, team offense. Yeah. The Rams ranked number 1 in 2017. The Raiders were, where were they here? Were 23rd. Yeah, they're ranked 23 in 2017. They were 23rd ranked. Okay, so that's according to Pro Football Reference. Now, if we go 2018 for NFL team offensive statistics in terms of rankings, Kansas City, of course, is number 1. And scrolling down, we find the Raiders. But this is they don't seem to have the numerical ranking. They just have teams. So you say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. And the Raiders are 23rd again. So basically, the Raiders have not improved in terms of offensive position.
Right.
You change court. You bring in, which is interesting because you bring in John Gruden. You're supposed to bring in, ostensibly you're supposed to do better offensively, right?
Yes.
And you don't. You basically they flatlined.
Yes.
So Dale Jr. There you go. They flatlined. Okay, so turning back to college football, and talking about, we've got Georgia coming up. How do you think Georgia's going to do?
Of Clemson, you mean Clemson?
Well, but Georgia plays in the Peach Bowl.
Against Georgia's playing in Sugar Bowl against Texas.
Yeah, the Sugar Bowl against, what did I say, the Peach Bowl. The Peach Bowl was Saturday, and that was Michigan versus Florida. Sorry about that.
Right. Yeah, no, yeah.
It's been a long weekend, folks, but yeah.
Georgia. I'm wondering if they're motivated to be in that game. They should be, because that's a nice trip to New Orleans as an SEC representative to the Sugar Bowl. And then Texas, they're an up-and-coming program. They're trying to turn things around with Tom Herman, who's an offensive-minded coach. He was the offensive coordinator at Ohio State in the first playoff game when they beat Alabama.
Are you trying to tell me that Georgia was whining too much about not making it to a better bowl?
Not a better bowl, but they wanted to be in the playoffs. So let's see if they're motivated. They should be, because anytime you put on that jersey, you should want to win the bowl game.
Amen to that. Yeah, and I mistook when I said better bowl, but I meant a playoff bowl. And well, if you're trying to get national championship status, there is that such thing as a better bowl. But the bottom line is, you don't want to send the message that you're not going to go out on top, because if I'm Texas and I'm a Tom Herman, I'm thinking, hey, wait a minute. These guys think it's a demotion to play against us? Excuse me? We're the Texas Longhorns. We're going to go out there and kick their tail for thinking that. You know what I mean? So,
yes. Yeah. I'm sure he'll have that type of motivational speech somewhere along the line during the week or something to that effect. Yeah.
Hey, in terms of, and I know that we haven't had the national championship game yet, but where would you rank this Alabama Crimson Tide team in terms of the greatest teams of all time?
Well, it could be the best if they finish up with a victory, because I've never seen them have such a prolific offense.
Okay. One of my fans asked, he said, who's getting tired of this is what I'm getting. He goes, who's getting tired of Alabama and Clemson in the national championship game?
Yeah, right. It'll be the third time.
Yeah.
And it'll be the fourth time in the playoffs.
Yeah. But it says something for Clemson and Dabo Swinney, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. He built up a tremendous program. He's he's right there with Alabama in the future because he recruits well, develops the players, and he's got a wealth of talent that's willing to come on board with Clemson. I mean, it's in South Carolina. People probably don't know what city is the Clemson University, and some people don't even know.
What city is it?
Clemson, South Carolina.
Yeah, see.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean,
but I mean, it's never been a blue blood school. They had some good seasons, but he's turning it into a nouveau riche.
Yeah, that's very true.
Program.
Hey, I got to ask you a question. Cowboy Wrestler says Georgia should easily beat Texas, but we'll see. Mike Mayock is rumored to be a top candidate for the Raiders general manager position, and he went and told several reporters that he was interviewed by the Raiders. He told them that today. What do you think of Mike Mayock as a GM candidate? You good or bad or indifferent? What are your thoughts?
I don't know if he has any experience, but I would exclude him because he doesn't have that on his resume. He's a person that can evaluate talent, and that's the most important. You can fill in with all the other details when you're trying to have someone be your general manager. I mean, the main thing is, can he evaluate talent, or can he hire people to evaluate talent, or both?
Mm-hmm. Or negotiate contracts, handle the salary cap.
Yeah, you could bring in people for those duties, though.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point. Yeah, that's a great point. Joseph Marmonders has a question for you. And Amin Daris, he asks, can you ask AP who he thinks the Raiders should draft in the first round and if they should get rid of Derek Carr? You got any thoughts on the Raiders' future?
Well, I mean, I have to evaluate their talent base. I'm not sure where they need the most help now. If they're in a position where they're not winning very many good games, you know, do you have the philosophy of taking the best athlete available, or am I drafting for the need? That's always the chicken before the egg question, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So really, and I'm not saying somebody's right or wrong. I'm just stating that the fact that you have to make a decision. What is your philosophy?
Mm-hmm. And Cowboy Rush has a question for you. He says, do you believe that Washington has any chance of beating Ohio State in Pasadena?
I would say that they don't have the athletes to play with Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
And now you've got to determine if Ohio State wants to give Urban Meyer a big send-off because this is his last game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if they're mad and don't come out to play ball, then Washington's got a chance because they're hungry to win the Rose Bowl.
You think that the Washington State or the Washington defense is fast enough to stop Ohio State?
Probably not overall. Probably not. No, I don't. I mean, they played Auburn a close game early in the season.
Mm-hmm. I remember. Which I was thinking
so,
of.
You don't have to. You have to get some turnovers. Probably if you have the lesser talent on defense to guard these receivers, so you've got to turn the ball over. Get them to turn the ball over at some point, and sneak in a few possessions on your side and then score.
Mm-hmm. And hey, AP, how do we catch you on? I know you're throughout Alabama. I'm gonna let you rest your voice a little bit because.
Yes.
But how do we catch you, and where do we catch you? We can follow you on Twitter, right?
Yes. Yeah. Follow me on Twitter. Normally, I put up my schedule every day where I'm gonna be on the radio. So I'm on Monday through Saturday.
Oh, tell them the Twitter account, by the way.
Yeah, at AP Steadham.
AP Steadham.
Yeah,
Steadham, folks,
Twitter.
is STEADHAM, right?
That's correct. That it sure is.
Got it. Hey, I did something right for a change. Wow.
You do a lot of things right, Sonny.
Hey, I try, but I haven't reached.
Some of us try. Some of us try, and you succeed.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not rich. I'm not rich. I'm working on building a media empire. How's that? But my objective right now is making my loyal fans happy. That's the whole point. And
yes.
I have people watching who've been fantastic. I have longtime friends like yourself, most notably, who've been kind enough to take their time and share your knowledge with us because you've done a lot. And done a lot in the NFL and every place else, and so it's I'm blessed to be able to have this and build this space to have folks like yourself on and call your folks like yourself friends. So yeah, there you go. Hey,
thank you, Stan. I really appreciate you having me on the show.
Got it. You got it. Hey, one question before I go. Where is this overblown? There is this, I think her name is Maria Davis on ESPN. She's a,
yes. It's a different last name. I forgot. Maria, is it Maria Taylor?
Yeah. Taylor. Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Does she have some, is it overblown, or is Saban have some sort of beef with her, or is it like,
that's what I know of. No.
Okay.
He did say something to her on air. Got short with her early in the season.
Yeah, he got short with her, and then
he apologized.
Yeah, and I just wondered. I mean, she does a great job to me. It seems like she's really, as they say on the streets, on her J, right? But I just wondered because he was asking a question of her. She was asking a question of him, and then after it was done, she said thank you, and he said, "Oh, she said thank you," but he did it in a kind of a way, kind of like, "Oh, brother," and the expression on his face to me was a little weird. Although I shared my thoughts with my mother, and she didn't think there was anything wrong with it because she felt that Saban was right to address the subject of his players before any reporter the way that he did. And I'm all set to defer to my mom and her wisdom and knowledge, but I just had to ask because I felt like there was something there, and I thought, well, maybe EP can set me straight, for the
that was that last night you saying, Denny?
Yeah,
Yeah, I didn't see that because I was at the game. I was
okay. Yeah, and it was like a little thing, it was like, but it was kind of like I stopped and I froze. And I thought, whoa, this is interesting. But I know there are some people who have issues with women as sideline reporters. I don't, and I bring this up because at times there's an undercurrent of behavioral displeasure that seems to come out of certain people when they encounter a woman as a sideline reporter. And I mean, the most dramatic example was when Joe Namath tried to kiss, Susie Colbert many years ago, right? But even today, with so many great and talented women in calling games, you have people who have this issue. And so I was wondering if there's some people in sport who need to work on how to excise or remove their prejudices in that area, or am I walking up the wrong tree?
I mean, Saban, he's not worried about if you're a man or a woman. If he doesn't like your question, he'll let you know.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally like Coach Saban a lot. Yeah. And I think he's always been very, very fair. And the few times I'm like, that I've been able to talk with him. So it's not that at all. I just wondered, I just thought I'd ask an expert,
Oh yeah, no, he's he'll address your question, man or woman. He doesn't make a difference to him.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. Good on the program. Well, hey, P, I know that you want to rest your voice.
Yeah, thank you very much, Cindy, for having me on this show, and I appreciate it. Look forward to the next time.
Oh, by the way, hey,
what's that?
If somebody's cruising through the great state of Alabama, can they find you on different what radio programs? Can they find your?
Oh yeah, it's all over Mobile and in Foley, Alabama, and Dothan, Alabama, Montgomery, Alabama, Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
The bottom line is AP rules Alabama Crimson Tide Radio. So he's the man. So like I say, I'm blessed to know him and have him, and for to be in a position where he puts up with my stupid probing questions.
No, it's all right. It's fine. No, you're fine, Teddy. We have a good time.
You got it, man. Hey, drink some tea, my man. Rest that voice.
I sure will. Thank you, Teddy. Thank you so much.
And Happy New Year.
Oh, yeah, happy New Year to you and your audience. Thank you for having me on the show.
You got it. Thank you for allowing me to have you on. I'm forever blessed. Always am.
Okay, Teddy, thank you so much.
Okay, see you, man. See you. That was my longtime friend. It's been over 10 years. AP Steadham. Malcontent is here. He says it's ironic that the Raiders are considering playing at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London. That venue is a perfect analog for the Raiders' underfunded stadium in Las Vegas. Yep. Now, if my question is this, and I don't know the answer to it. Sometimes I ask questions I already know the answer to, but I don't know the answer to this one. Is the NFL going to entirely pay the Raiders freight over there? That would be the only way it would be worthwhile the Raiders. Now, what I mean by that, I mean travel expenses. I mean game day expenses. I mean security expenses. I mean hotel, the whole 9 yards. That's the only time it makes sense. Okay? It's the only time it makes sense. And that's the question that I seek an answer to. Joseph Armendura says, looking briefly at the resumes for Louis Riddick and Mike Mayock, it seems like Riddick is more impressive and has more experience. Let's take a look at that. Louis Riddick. Louis Riddick, Wikipedia. Born March 14th, 1969. Former American football safety who played in the NFL from 1991 to 1998. Playing career, he was drafted by the San Francisco 49ers in the 9th round of the 1991 NFL Draft. He played college football at Pittsburgh. He also played for the Sacramento Surge, Atlanta Falcons, Cleveland Browns, Oakland Raiders, and Orlando Rage in his playing career. Post-playing career. After his playing career ended, Riddick became a pro scout for the Washington Redskins for 4 years before being promoted to director of pro personnel. He was hired by the Philadelphia Eagles as a pro scout in 2008. He was promoted to director of pro personnel in February 3rd, 2010. As of September 2013, Riddick is an on-air talent for ESPN. Yeah, I would say that's quite correct. I mean, the bottom line here is he's basically climbed the ladder, Riddick has, on the way to general manager. So Louis Riddick's next stop should be general manager with the Oakland Raiders, assuming, of course, the Raiders have interviewed him. And I'm clicking on Louis Riddick news, and there's nothing at all about, because if there were, it would have been listed. There's nothing suggesting that the Raiders have interviewed Riddick. On the other hand, keep this in mind. Mike Mayock went to the media that was on hand at the Kansas City Chiefs game and told them the Raiders had interviewed him. Now, the normal course, the way these things go, is such that the Raiders might be inclined to take him off their list if he's going to go blab to the media like that. I mean, you only blab to the media when you have the job. You don't blab to the media when someone's interviewed for you for the job. Because if they have, the Raiders, done the work of keeping quiet the fact that they're talking to people for the job of general manager, don't you think that they would be a little bit annoyed if Mike basically goes off the range and says, hey, they interviewed me, right? So I think he made a mistake, all right? Jim says he thinks the Raiders are going to play in Salt Lake City and Utah Stadium. Corey Brown, how you doing? Oh, I'm missing something here. Corey says, I'm missing some things here. I'm missing some questions. First of all, Cowboy Wrestler says, Z, can San Francisco officials prevent the Raiders from playing at AT&T Park? The answer to that is yes. And he says, reminder, the AT&T Park is owned by the Giants, not the city of San Francisco. That matters less than the fact that you have a number of services you depend on from the city and county of San Francisco. and you don't want to screw up political relationships. And it just so happens that the city of Oakland is involved in a lawsuit against the Oakland Raiders. So for the Giants to decide to give, well, not really give, but allow the Oakland Raiders to play at AT&T Park, thereby indirectly dragging the city and the county of San Francisco into the situation, basically sets up the city and county of San Francisco to be a player in tortiously interfering in the lawsuit between the city of Oakland and the Raiders. So all signs point to the Raiders having jettisoned the San Francisco idea. Among them, the fact that all of a sudden you're hearing talk about England again. They ought to just, you know what? Put tail between the legs, come back to Oakland, mea culpa, say we want to play 1 more year, 2 more years, because it's quite clear that Las Vegas Stadium is behind schedule. All right. Corey Brown says, if the Raiders don't play in Oakland next year, is it possible the NFL allows them to be in to use Las Vegas in their name? I would say, as I understand it, no. In fact, that was brought up. The time that they're able to use the Las Vegas name, and I forgive me, I forgot the specifics behind this situation, but this did come up before. When they start playing in Las Vegas officially, then they can they can call themselves. And the year that they're in there and they're beginning to play and everything's scheduled and they got the keys to the stadium, then they're the Las Vegas Raiders. But not while they're still the Oakland Raiders. Right now, they have a lease on the table that they could turn around and say, hey, look, we'll sign it. They don't have any other place to play, but they have a place in Oakland that's still basically theirs. And bigger than that, the Raiders still have territorial rights in Oakland. So as long as those territorial rights exist, as long as they are still the Oakland Raiders, then they will be called just that. It's not until they go to Vegas and come into another territory that they cease to be, the Oakland Raiders. Does that make sense? So it's a great question, Corey. Jim says the Raiders are going to play in. I got that part. Jim says Riddick is friends with John Gruden. They don't need an interview. Okay. I would like to know more if Rick is even interested or involved. We're going on assumptions right now. Malcontent says Z. If the NFL does fund the Raiders' travel and security expenses to London for 2019, I would recommend the city of Oakland add that as an additional cause of action in the new lawsuit. How would that work? Okay. I mean, look, the NFL's already listed as a party in the lawsuit. All right. But when you say a cause of action, I mean, where is the tort? Unless you're saying, I mean, all the other causes of action in a lawsuit list specific torts. A tort is a legal term for a wrong. In other words, for example, here's a tort. The Raiders did not act in good faith with the city of Oakland regarding their intentions of building a stadium in Oakland. So when you talk about that, that's a cause of action. That's a cause for me to sue you. That's what's going on. That's a cause of action. That's a tort. But for the NFL to say to the Raiders, hey, we'll pay your freight to go to London, I'm missing that one. I'm sure, Malcontent has some brilliant comeback for me because something I haven't missed. So I'm going to scroll down and see what that may be. Jim says, I also think The Raiders know where they're going to play next year. They just haven't announced it yet. Jim now wants to know, is Mark Davis married? No, he's not. Joseph Mandura says, as much as I like John Gruden, he reminds me of that old school mentality that Kim believes that the older white guys do a better job in football management personnel. Yeah, I do see some of that. Okay, I see some of that with him. I see some of that with Mark Davis, and I think that's why there's been some problems. It's like this comfort zone of thinking that they're in, regardless of the result, and they believe that they're going to get the result within that comfort zone of thinking. And they waste a lot of time and money with that ideology at play. Cabaressa says, what about Palo Alto? I don't believe that Stanford, as politically savvy as Stanford is, I don't believe Stanford would step in the middle of what they would recognize as a legal issue between the city of Oakland, the county of Alameda, or the city of Oakland, and the Raiders politically. So that's another politically savvy group of people that technically have nothing to. Well, they have relationships they want to maintain. Many of them are personal and indirect. I just can't see Stanford doing that. The more I think about it, in that situation, the more untenable, the more unrealistic it is in my head. So I can't see that. Otherwise, I think it would have come up some time ago. Okay, now coming back to Jim says he thinks he knows where the Raiders are going to play next year, and they haven't announced it. They better hurry up with season tickets. I've had a number of season ticket holders say to me, hey, I'd like to know where we're going to be. Otherwise, why should I hold on to my tickets? Okay. Malcontent says the NFL will potentially then be assisting the team to disenfranchise and economically undermine the city and the county, further damaging the Raiders' current home market. Folks, I believe Malcontent has just identified another cause of action. Malcontent, I think you should inform Barbara Parker of the city of Oakland attorney about that. I think you have made an outstanding point. And I'll repeat, Malcontent says the NFL will potentially be assisting the team to disenfranchise and economically undermine the city of Oakland and the county of Alameda. Well, I would stick to the city because the county's out of it. Further damaging the Raiders' current home market. Yeah. I just wrote a piece called The Top Stories in Oakland from 2018. Number one is John Gruden. Number one is John Gruden. Can you imagine without the Raiders in Oakland, you wouldn't hear about Oakland as much nationwide by any means. Jim says, I also heard that Jerry Jones promised Mark Davis that he would not let the Raiders and Mark Davis fail. Have you heard anything about that? Hey, Jim, I have one question. When did you hear that? Because your answer will lead me to say two things, but I want to hear your answer first. Hey, welcome to Zenny62, everybody. So hopefully, Jim, you type back, I heard it, blank, did you hear it last week? Did you hear it? When did you hear that or read that? Curious. Very curious. But Malcontent, I think you're on to something. Oh, Jim says, after the vote for the Raiders to get to Los Angeles. In other words, Houston 2016. Okay. I can tell you that's true. I can tell you that something is about to go down in about a week plus that I cannot say, but it was going to happen. And it 1,000,000% back what you have written. Yeah. Jerry Jones, I can say this. Jerry Jones is solidly involved in the promotion of the development of Las Vegas Stadium. I'll repeat that. Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones is solidly involved in the promotion of the development of Las Vegas Stadium, particularly with respect to sponsors. So yeah. Valcotin says he'll email the city attorney about the analysis next week. Later this week. Who else should you CC? Oakland City Council. The new council members. Remember, you have Lauren Taylor, District 6, Nikki Bass, District 2, and, well, of course, Shane Tao, District 4. Okay? So there you are. Jamal Mills says, but what does Jerry Jones get out of it? Money. He has Legends Entertainment, Legends places, both, they take care of the hospitality and performers in the stadium. Then also the overall value of the average team of the league. The Raiders are severely undervalued. Jim says, I also think Jerry Jones does have some kind of respect for Al Davis. That's what he gets out of it. Yeah. Oh, no, it's also a legacy play. It's all that and more. It's not strictly business. It's also part of NFL legacy. And helping the growth of a team that really should be further along in its development, talking about the Raiders, than it is, without question. I mean, you can point fingers here or there, every place else and all that, but the bottom line is the Raiders are woefully behind where they should be as an NFL franchise, as a franchise in sports. I mean, Raiders should be positioned to be worth $5 billion by now. And I contend if they stayed in the Bay Area, they could achieve that. The question is, can they achieve that in Las Vegas? And I think with the gambling component, they can. But the current situation where they are behind in sponsorships and they are behind in terms of total stadium revenue, stadium hotel tax revenue, because the tax rate's too small and the visitation rates have been low for Las Vegas. Those are severe problems. Remember, there's still no awarded Super Bowl. I'm going to stop at the top of the hour. It's almost 11. I'm going to stop very soon. Jim says, I just got back from Vegas. They're building like crazy in 2022. It's going to be booming. Yeah, I'm looking forward. I'm coming. Hey, Zenny 62 Media is into its 10th year as press at CES Las Vegas. I'm excited. I'm going. And actually, I'm taking my mom. And if you are looking to sponsor Zenny 62 Media's coverage, please email me here. I have a music sponsor already, Lida Music, and coverage. Had her on the show, has fantastic music. Happy to add you as well. If there's some message you want to get out, product, let's negotiate. Hurry. But yeah, Jim, they've got, I can't wait to see it. I mean, here's what bothers me. I love Las Vegas. I made a video earlier basically saying, hey, look, because I criticize the stadium deal doesn't mean I think the Raiders are going to turn around and, reverse course on the relocation and stay in Oakland. I don't think that. I don't like the zero-sum game that has been presented where someone wins, Las Vegas, someone loses, Oakland, and the Raiders and the NFL sit in the middle. That's wrong. That is completely wrong. Well, folks, I'm going to sign off. Tomorrow is New Year's Eve night. I am not going to schedule a live stream. If I do a live stream, the live stream will be related to New Year's Eve. Okay. I'm canning like this because I'm kind of leaning like, oh, yeah. So stay tuned, because if I do a live stream, it'll be, the phone someplace around here, maybe, saying Happy New Year. I will. You know what? I'm just going to do a Happy New Year live stream. Won't be long. We'll say Happy New Year, everybody. If you're on, you're on. If you're not, you're not. Whatever. It won't be long. All right. Thank you. And everybody. Yeah, live stream for the Peach Drop. Oh, that's. Are you going to be at the Peach Drop? I'm not going to be there. We're 50 miles out. I'm not going to drive in and do all that. And I'm going to celebrate it with my dear mom. Ringing in 2019 here. Haven't done this before. Here. Happy New Year, everybody, and God bless you all for being such great supporters, friends, fact checkers, minders of the conscience of this program. Thank you. God bless you all. Good night, and God bless the United States of America. And thank you, Jamal. Hey, hopefully one day I get a chance to meet you, both around the same orbit. All right, see you all. God bless. Thank you.